What if you were outnumbered 3-1, poorly equipped, exhausted from travel, and standing face to face with an army determined to destroy you? Most people would call it a certain defeat. But more than 1,400 years ago, in the scorching desert of Arabia, a small group of believers faced exactly that situation. What happened next would become one of the most extraordinary moments in Islamic history. This is the story of the Battle of Badr. The year was 424 CE. For years, Muslims in Mecca had faced persecution. They were mocked, tortured, and forced from their homes. Eventually, they migrated to Medina, leaving behind their wealth, businesses, and property. But the conflict was far from over. The leaders of Quraysh in Mecca wanted to eliminate the Muslim community once and for all. Tensions continued to rise until a confrontation became unavoidable. When news arrived that a Quraysh caravan was returning from Syria, the Muslims set out. Their intention was not to fight a major battle. They expected a small operation. What they did not know was that the Quraysh had mobilized a powerful army of nearly 1,000 warriors to protect the caravan and crush the Muslims. The Muslims had only around 313 men. Many possessed no armor. Some had no swords. Several shared the same camel. On paper, they had almost no chance of victory. As the two forces moved toward each other, they arrived near a place called Badr, a region known for its wells. Control of water could determine the outcome of the battle. The Muslims secured the most strategic positions near the wells, while the Quraysh camped farther away. That night, rain fell across the desert. For the Muslims, it strengthened the ground beneath their feet and made movement easier. For the Quraysh, it turned parts of the terrain into difficult mud. As dawn approached, the reality of the situation became clear. A small community fighting for survival stood before one of the strongest forces in Arabia. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ spent the night in prayer, asking Allah for help. According to Islamic tradition, this was a moment of complete reliance on Allah. The battle began with single combat between champions from both sides. Then the full clash started. The desert echoed with the sounds of swords, shields, and battle cries. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Muslims fought with remarkable determination. Their goal was not wealth or power. They were fighting to protect their faith, their families, and their future. As the battle intensified, the momentum began to shift. The Quraysh forces, confident of an easy victory, found themselves facing fierce resistance. One by one, many of their key leaders fell. Confusion spread through their ranks. What had seemed like an overwhelming advantage started turning into a shocking defeat. By the end of the day, the impossible had happened. The Muslim army had won. Around 70 members of the Quraysh were killed, and many others were captured. The Muslims had suffered far fewer losses. The victory sent shockwaves throughout Arabia. People who had dismissed the Muslims as a small and vulnerable group suddenly realized they had become a force that could not be ignored. But the significance of Badr went beyond military success. For Muslims, it became a symbol of faith, perseverance, and trust in Allah during the most difficult moments. It showed that numbers alone do not determine outcomes. History can change when courage, conviction, and determination come together. Even today, more than 14 centuries later, the Battle of Badr remains one of the most remembered events in Islamic history. A battle that began with only 313 believers became a turning point that changed the course of the Muslim world forever. The Battle of Badr was more than a victory on a battlefield. It was a moment that proved how a small group, unified by faith and purpose, could overcome overwhelming odds. And perhaps that is why the story of Badr continues to inspire millions around the world to this day. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more incredible chapters from the history of the Ummah.